4 times, maybe.
More than that, I think.
Okay, so let's get into this, right? Okay, so you asked me, actually, you said you wanted to do an episode of Mzansi Madness about culture, identity.
Yeah,
to me, it sounded like it was like a big thing about identity that you wanted to do. Okay, so welcome to Mzansi Madness, episode number, I think 6 or something like that. Do you want to quickly introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Hi, my name is Luntu Masiza, and I'm an actor.
Award-winning.
Okay, I'm an actor. And what else do? I'm an entrepreneur. I run a company where I do team building using theatre and corporate spaces. And and I'm very passionate about that and connecting with people and having conversations like this.
Cool, let's get into it. So we literally just recorded, like, I don't know, it feels like it was like 20 minutes or something, and lost it because my phone just decided to do something. So which is also why we're rushing through this, literally, this little introduction. And I say award-winning because I think it's important. Like, you got to give yourself the credit. You won a Fleur de Cup award, theatre award 2 years ago. It's incredible. It's exciting.
Thank you.
We are talking today about culture and identity because you approached me the other day and you were like, I would love to talk about culture and identity because I guess it's something that is heavy on your heart.
I face like cultural clashes within my life. I mean, born in South Africa, stayed here for 10 years. Then I left at the age of 10, and then I went to the UK. That's facing more cultures, clashes. My mom is Xhosa, my father is Zulu. So there's a whole lot of confusion, and I find it over the years hard to kind of pinpoint where do I place myself, where do I fit in which culture do I fit in, because in the Xhosa culture I'll get questioned. That's due to having done certain things which required in the culture.
Elaborate again. Don't skip it like everybody's heard now the thing that got lost. The things that you speak of that are required within the culture is
like I'm going to the mountains. Not able to
circumcision school. I'm just because some people might not be South African that are listening.
True.
Perhaps. So going to initiation school.
So what that happens in the Xhosa culture when you're 18 plus you go to the mountain for a month or so. And that's where you turn from boy to man.
It's magic.
Well, not magic. This is serious, Tandy. Don't mock it.
I'm taking it very seriously.
You must take it serious.
Have you gone to do this very serious thing?
No, not for me, because I didn't grow up here, and I've always had my questions on it. One of my closest uncle, he passed away in 2012, and he always wanted me to go there. And I guess being in a foreign country, you're not really exposed to it so much, so you can't just wake up and say, okay, I'm going to initiation school. You know what I mean? It's not something you can just do like that. For me, it's always okay, why am I doing it? What purpose does it serve within my life? Is it necessary, etc. So those are the questions I found myself asking.
And you've answered these questions with no, it doesn't serve a purpose in my life?
I have and I haven't. And I say that because I've accepted where I am at this point and the decision that I kind of made to go against it for my own personal reasons, because I just don't think it defines me as a man. That's the personal reasons I have. But who knows,
But the fact that other people might not see you as a man doesn't bother you, or it doesn't give you enough reason to go, okay, you know what, if you don't accept me as a man within that country, because also, I mean, if you're going to the Eastern Cape, are you going to sit with the men?
No.
Can you sit with the men?
I probably wouldn't be able to sit with the men. And I don't go, I think the reason why I'm okay with it and living with it, because I don't go there often. Perhaps if I live there, then it's a different story. Then this will be a whole different conversation and how I view things. Maybe the pressures of life.
Yeah.
Because I think as human beings, that's what we want. We all want to be part of something and be accepted in something. And the moment we feel isolated and we don't feel like a part of it, that's when you start to even question yourself, like, actually, where do I belong? Who am I? What do I want? You have all these questions running through your mind. Ooh, you're itching to ask me something.
I'm just wondering, do you feel like being between cultures, right? Having grown up with various cultures influencing you, do you feel like the way that you are find your identity, you are able to pick and choose in a very comfortable way. Like you can choose not to go to initiation school because you're like, yeah, but I'm also Zulu. And also I also grew up in England. And so I don't, so you literally, you're able to choose the things that are like very, like just comfortable. I feel like I do that to a certain degree. I'm like, I choose the things that serve me, that suit me. I don't adhere to cultural norms that I feel like, well, they have no purpose in my life. Mainly because I think that that's how culture should work. If something that's a part of a culture doesn't serve the people living within that culture, I feel like you have to discard it, because I think that cultures are supposed to serve a purpose. The traditions and the customs that we have should serve a purpose, and if they no longer serve that purpose, I feel like maybe it's time to move on from that and find other things that are more adapted to that, certain given time.
Quick question. Is there a difference between tradition and culture? What's the difference between tradition and culture? How about we put it out there?
This is really terrible, because I feel like this is something that I firstly should know, because didn't I study something like this? I'm not even sure. I think so. And also, I just feel like now I'm very ill prepared for this episode. It's fine. It's all it's all a process.
We've got a researcher.
We've got a
researcher. They're gonna get us.
I don't know what. Okay, so let's move on in the meantime, so we don't lose time. Both of us, we both are between cultures. We're both should we say bicultural? I'm not sure. I am
cultural intersection. I don't know.
Something of mixed heritage. Right. I am Venda and German, which is why I'm wearing mine. This is honestly the only time that anybody ever suspects that maybe I could be Venda's when I'm wearing these bracelets. And then they won't even be like, are you Venda? They'll be like, do you know what this is? And I'm like, yeah, I know what this is. This is my grandma's bangles. And they're like, where did you get it? I'm like, I told you, from my grandma. I'm like, no, but this is Venda. I'm like, yeah, that's me. But also, I don't know. How do you claim even a culture as, what if, so I'm Venda because my dad is Venda, right? And now I'm here saying I'm Venda, but I don't even speak Venda because I didn't grow up speaking Venda. And it's confusing, man, because...
I recently had a situation. I went to the Met and people, the theme was Africa, and people were wearing a lot of traditional clothes. And then I was like, okay, what do I wear? What do I wear? A Xhosa outfit? Do I wear a Zulu outfit? What do I wear? I didn't know what to wear. And then I was like, you know what? Let me just go for something simple, an African-looking sort of shirt, and it represents the whole of Africa. And I think for me, that's the battle I've had for a long time of trying to fit.
What did it end up being? This is interesting. Something African looking. What does that mean?
No, it was an African top material, like one of those dashikis kind of looking, tops, if that makes sense. Shirts.
The one that white people wear.
No, not the one that white people wear. Mine was actually nice, but you could tell I went to a Congolese woman who made it for me. Like I just said, I want something that represents Africa.
But obviously the Congolese woman is going to choose something that's like Congolese because.
But it didn't have a specific culture in the day. You know what I mean? People talk about Wakanda. What does Wakanda? Let's not go into that. But that's something that I've come to an understanding that I am Xhosa, I am Zulu, I am British, and no one can kind of determine that for me, where it starts and where it finishes. I have to own it myself, But also with saying that me owning it myself, I always have my questions at the back of my mind.
So, but this is interesting because why is it even so important to us? Why is it even important for you to go, you can't tell me what I am, I can define for myself what culture I am? Because maybe culture is not important. Maybe in this world that we live in, where anybody can do anything and be anything,
But it's about acceptance, Tandy.
But that's what I'm saying. If people are not accepting you, why is it important for you to
that's
go?
Why I've had
no,
to
but I am
for myself.
Yeah, but
that's why I say. That's why I say that no one can determine where it starts, where it finishes. I have to be able to embrace it and say, you know what? I am Xhosa. I am Zulu.
Yeah,
I am
but why
British,
can't you? You could just as easily say, Yeah, I don't adhere to any of these things. I don't care about these customs within the culture. I don't care about these norms within the culture. They don't serve me. Like, let me just not. I'm an actor.
I don't know.
You know, and
No, but I think
why is it important? Why is culture important for us? For our identity.
for me, with culture and I say like from what I've learned, like remember I was saying.
I'm gonna read this just now. Yeah.
I'd grown up, I stayed in the city, I stayed in the villages on the Eastern Cape. And I think those memories shaped me somehow. And they taught me something to get from that culture.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for me, that's the beauty of it. I kind of know where my roots come from. I know where I can say, okay, this is where I am from.
So is that what you say culture is? Is something that forms you?
It forms you, yeah. It can define you to a certain point.
Okay.
To a certain point.
Yeah.
Not everything about that culture can define
Right.
you. It's confusing. Isn't
No, it's not. I'm just wondering because
Yeah.
to me, then I would be like, I don't feel particularly formed by Venda culture because it didn't really. I grew up with, I mean, so my dad obviously was. I grew up with my dad, but he didn't speak Venda with us, and he didn't particularly. The things that you do in Venda culture, and like even in terms of what you were also saying in terms of like the respect and whatnot.
Yeah. You don't know that.
I'm just like when I go home now, or when I go to my family, my Venda family, the kids be like, greeting you with like, on their knees and stuff, and I never did that. I never grew up with that. I didn't. My dad never expected us to do things that culturally
Venda, define you as a Venda.
I can't think of anything particularly Venda except for spirituality, which is a whole other topic I'm gonna have to keep because it's also more my parents' story. But about
how does that make you feel then, not having probably learned?
It makes me. It's like I was saying before. I don't feel torn between cultures because I really think it's easy to just pick and choose. And, I mean, pick and choose really sounds very comfortable now, but I mean, you just live life, and then you do the things that you do. Yeah. And
is that the easy way out? You think?
No, I don't think it's the easy way out. It's just like living your life. You grew up with two parents that come from different cultures, and then you have to navigate the space, and you're speaking multiple languages to each other, and then you have misunderstandings based maybe on language or whatever, and you just have to like figure it out. But it's not, to me, that wasn't a problem. What makes me sad now as I'm older is that I cannot speak Venda, and I don't have, like, my grandmother passed away 2 years ago, and I realized that at her funeral that I didn't have access to my grandmother in the same way that my cousins had access to her, and I missed out on having a connection with an incredible person, which I couldn't have because we didn't speak the same language. She's that generation, so her English was small and my Venda was even smaller, so I couldn't communicate with her, and my cousins had this incredible relationship to their grandmother, which I didn't have. And also just being in that space at the funeral, you're sitting there, and I mean, also it's just mighty awkward at some point because you're sitting there, and my grandma, it was a village funeral, and there's like what felt like 1,000 people at this funeral, and we're in under like a tent in the yard, and people are doing eulogies. They're going up to the front and holding very long speeches, especially the pastor dude who's like, guys, wow. And you couldn't talking about the Lord the whole time. Yeah. And I couldn't understand what was happening, but now the embarrassing thing was my sister and myself were the only non-Venda speaking people at that, and we're sitting in the front row, obviously, because that's where family is sitting, and then we had a translator in the front. Oh, now he's translating every single sentence that people are saying, and it obviously makes the speech that much longer when you're translating every single second, and everybody's sitting there. It's like, I mean, it's Limpopo, it's like 40 degrees, it's like 5 a.m, and everybody's like, and they had to translate it, and obviously it also doesn't really translate a lot of the stuff.
But I think there's something powerful about that, the power of language, of like your mother tongue, and knowing that, and the access that it gives you And that,
Yeah.
can I say in your culture, in your, I don't know, I think it's just, there's just so much power in that. And I think once, that's why I'm really grateful that I personally never lost my mother tongue. My mom spoke in Xhosa to me in the UK. And there's times that I try and speak in English because so she just Xhosa. And she would speak Xhosa there. And I had friends who spoke Zulu and like from Zimbabwe who spoke Ndebele and Shona, etc. And therefore I had that, mother tongue kind of going.
And was your dad also there?
No. So my dad passed away like 95. I was very young.
Okay.
And they weren't married. My mom's 10 years older than my dad. That's another story. They weren't married. But I think for me, then, now coming back to South Africa, there's been challenges of that. Okay, I'm half Zulu and half Xhosa. And I found myself getting the comfort way out. When I'm speaking to someone who's Xhosa, I speak in Zulu to them. Just so that they don't have to speak to me in Xhosa, and then they can probably just speak to me in English because whatever, let me just speak to them in English. Or when I'm in KZN, I just speak to them in Xhosa. It's just in a way for me to find my own comfort zone, because my Xhosa, yes, I can speak it, but it's not sharp. You know what I mean? It hasn't got that weight to it. I can just bear.
So I don't understand. What you're saying is you're hiding to a certain degree.
Not that I'm hiding. I think it's when you're in a conversation, you realize it's getting a bit awkward. I'd rather have the easy way out, which is speak in Zulu when I'm speaking to a Xhosa person.
But it's literally so that you don't have to answer questions about identity.
It's not.
It's so that people don't ask you like.
It's a comfort.
Why?
I think it's not done in a way of I'm running away. It's just like, look, I'm very comfortable in this space. I know it's hard for me to speak Xhosa with you fluently right now, and therefore let me speak Zulu with you right now. It makes sense. Okay. Does it make sense? No, it doesn't.
No, it makes sense.
But maybe it isn't a scapegoat. Maybe it isn't a scapegoat for me to say, you know what, I don't want to be laughed at. I don't want to sound funny because I know my Xhosa sounds funny when I'm speaking to a Xhosa person. And there's been times where I've put myself in situations where I say, you know what, let me just commit to it. I'm just going to speak even if it comes out funny. And someone will look at me like, there's something wrong with your Xhosa. And then I get questioned. Where are you from? Like, no, I'm half Zulu and half Xhosa. Be like, okay, now that explains it.
At least they ask you where you're from. For me, they ask me, what are you?
Okay.
It's not even like, I'm not even a person apparently. What are you? Like,
wow.
It just sounds rude. But I'm like, it's not, that's what I'm saying, it's not painful to me. I mean, I get it, because in the South African context, it's not, we've been kept separate for a long time. So obviously it's something that is challenging to us to go, you can be multiple things at the same time. Because our identities was like, I mean, it was strategic. It was like we were supposed to be kept separate at all times. And so
there's a lot of tribalism, I feel, in South Africa. I get that energy depending where you go. I mean, I've had family members who say, don't marry who are Zulu, don't marry a Xhosa girl. I'm okay. And then I've had my Xhosa family, some of them say, don't marry a Zulu girl. And I'm just like, can I just marry who I want? You know what I'm saying? Like, there's so much tribalism and separate. I don't know what it is. There's a thing, I think once again it's going to a thing of acceptance and comfort and probably relating, we get one another, we understand, let's stick to that. I think it's that looking for that acceptance. I don't know. And I think that's the world we live in. So we put all these labels, and that's past culture, that's everything. We go past transgenders, we look at things like that. It's because people want to box people and point fingers and say, no, you're not this, and therefore you're not accepted in this. And it feels like almost a place of inferior, I don't know, complex, I don't know.
Oh, the people that are boxing or that are judging based on...
Who are judging and boxing, saying,
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know. I don't really understand the obsession with any of it, to be honest. I'm confused sometimes about the same thing that I was asking you. Like, what is the purpose of why does one even have to claim a culture or claim a culture with its tradition? Why are these things important to us? Because we could live completely without any of that.
Look what you said just now a few minutes ago. The fact that you never knew your mother tongue, you couldn't speak Venda, and you didn't have a greater connection with your grandma because of that was a barrier. The language is a barrier. I think those are the things that matter to people. They want to connect and be, with people within that area. They want to be able to feel accepted and not be questioned. You just want to be part of it, understand me? And I think that's definitely relating to you. You want to learn Venda so you could connect with the people from the village, from your grandma, whatever it may be, so you can have that strong, solid relationship with them.
Yeah, but I think language is one thing. But I mean, because you can learn, in theory, you can learn any language, right? Except for I'm not trying to learn Venda because that's the hardest language that I've ever encountered in my life. I'm too old, man.
No, you're not.
One day when I'm retired and I have a lot of time, but right now I can't.
Start now. Let's make a challenge. Start now.
Okay, let's talk about this later. But you can learn any language. Like if I want, if I want access to Italians, then I'm gonna learn Italian, and you can, but I'm not gonna claim that I'm now Italian because I speak.
But then the fact that you know how to speak and connect with someone.
Yeah, but then you don't claim that. But identity or like culture is different because you are either you can't become.
You can learn about it.
Yeah, but you can't become. I can't be like, oh, I want to become whatever. Tonga. That's not. You can't. I can't. Yeah. It's not gonna happen.
But once again, when we'll go, how will it? What will benefit you by learning that? By learning a certain language or whatever, it's gonna benefit you and open.
I'm just wondering. What I'm wondering about is the closeness of culture, because anything else you can transcend these things. You can learn a language. You can acquire a passport. Like you can become German, for instance. But with culture, it feels almost like you cannot. Culture is something like innate to you. You are either born that thing or not. Yeah. So I am Venda because I am born Venda. I cannot become Venda. I also I can't not be Venda, even though I don't speak the language. Yeah. I don't know the cultural norms. Every time I go to see my family, I'm like, wait, what? I don't know the stories that people grew up with. I just don't know. And so am I even Venda? I would question it, but according to culture, I'm Venda. Just by virtue of being born to a Venda person, I am Venda. So I'm wondering, what is culture? I just don't really understand it. And then also, attached to that, what are these traditions that are part of a culture that we are also born into, and kind of just honestly, like the way that it frustrates me as well, because I think a lot of cultural norms are great, obviously, and connect us and make us feel connected, and probably a lot of them serve a purpose. But then there comes a point where you have to question for yourself, like you are doing in your case, does it serve me to go to initiation school, or is that a part of my culture that I don't need in this world, because it no longer, in my cult context, serves a purpose.
It doesn't serve a purpose to me. That's a good thing.
And a lot of the time you will find people, you had this conversation with my dad, where you asked him, do you think that I should go to initiation school?
But look, I had a lot. I think coming back for me, I had to have those conversations, and not just my immediate family. I had to have those conversations with a lot of people from the tribe, from the Xhosa tribe, men who had been to initiation school, men who had never been to initiation school, and try and really find out what is the big deal about this, because I guess as someone growing up in the country, I wasn't groomed into it. You understand me? Because if you've lived here all your life, you're kind of groomed into it. You're kind of preparing yourself mentally, emotionally to go. You're gonna do this thing when you're 18. You're gonna do it. So by the time you hit 18, boom, you're good to go. Now I leave here when I'm 10. I come back when I'm 23. Like go. I'm like, no, whoa, slow down. Where am I going? Why? I want to know what's the purpose. What's the reason? How is it gonna benefit me? And I haven't found the answers for those things, and that's why I was like, no man, I'm my own man. I'm my own man.
Is a part of it, be honest, is a part of it that you're not doing it though? Because it seems like it's still a question for you.
It'll always
Is
be a
a part
question.
of the part of the reason that you're not going to fear of going?
Fear.
Yeah.
Do I fear of going?
Yeah. I think it sounds scary.
Yeah. I'm a man. Why should I be scared? I'm joking. I'm playing. No. I don't. Yeah, part of it. Because also you heard stories. I mean, I've written a play about it. That was a whole different thing. But yeah, the reason, because you hear stories of people passing away, etc. Dying. I've heard stories of people catching HIV. Like, there's so many stories that I've heard. And of course, I've been told some of those stories are not true. It's different for everyone. And I don't know. I think for me, it's a really conflicting thing. And I think I'll always ask myself, but then I have to always, with questioning myself and asking myself, why do I think this way? Why would it be important to me? That's a conversation I have to always remember. Why did I say no? Why did I say no at that point? Why was I confident enough or be satisfied and be content with that, saying, okay, I don't need this. And I think I always have to have that conversation and remind myself. And the answer to that is that I don't think it will serve my purpose. I believe that I am who I am. I am a man to myself, and that's through carrying myself, my behavior, the morals that I hold, my values that I hold close to me.
That makes you a man, because it sounds like the same thing that makes a woman, like, it doesn't sound... what I'm saying is that these conversations about being a man really confuse me, because I have never questioned whether I'm a woman based on that. It's just like you're a woman or you're a man. Why is it a philosophical question in that sense? Like, not even getting into like gender and sex or whatever, but just like in terms of you, like, also it stresses me because people like to say a real man is somebody who carries himself with pride and who respects women. It's like, no, there's real fucking scary men out there who do not carry themselves with pride, who are abusive. Those are real men too. And by saying that,
in this context,
I'm
talking. Yeah, I hear what you're saying, but I'm talking about from defining myself. Okay, why would this not serve my purpose, being a man, by going to nutrition school? And I'm saying, okay, this is what defines me as a man for myself.
But does it define you as a man for yourself?
As a human being.
Okay, because...
As a human being.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Well, no, that's what I'm wondering.
Yeah,
if it has something to do with masculinity, about a concept of masculinity, or if you're just talking about yourself as a human being, as a person. Like, are you looking at it from the perspective of what do they want from me as a man, a masculine person? And what is it that I can how can I define myself as a masculine person? Or if you're talking about just being a person.
I think I'm talking to myself as being a human being. Because before I am black, before I am African, before I am Xhosa, I'm Zulu, I'm this and all of these things, I am a human being. Before all of that, first I'm a human being, and I acknowledge that. And therefore, any of these things are just happen to be part of me, of my being. And I take them along with me. And yes, some of them I might have said, okay, that doesn't suit me. And I've got every right to say that.
Was there more things?
Dum dum dum.
No, are there more things that you feel like you can discard from within the culture that maybe people say, but why don't you follow this? Why,
No, I think there will always be more things and things that I don't know myself until I'm put in a situation. Like, I know when I go to traditional ceremonies, even on the Zulu side, and then there's umqomboti, and everyone drinks umqomboti, goes around the room, and I'm just like, I'm that guy saying, nope, I don't touch alcohol. Even though it's not looked at as alcohol, it's traditional beer, it's different. I'm like, no, I don't touch it. Those.
And it's not a problem for you. It's not, you don't feel awkward saying no thank you. It's just like, that's just...
Because I think you have to make a stand for yourself and be firm on it and say, okay, I'm not gonna allow anything to swift my mind left or right. This is what I say. This is what I've agreed with myself.
Yeah.
And I always have to remind myself that. It might feel a bit awkward for them, and I remember my baby brother. He was like, you have to take it all. Everyone's watching. I'm like, no, I'm not doing it. I'm okay. And that there is hard because you feel like the pressure. Even if you have small boys, they take. You're like, no, I'm alright.
That's interesting because for me, in my context, nobody expects me even to know or to do the things. Like when I go to Joburg and I'm with my family, I'm very much seen as an outsider. She's you know, the Cape Town city girl.
Yeah.
So nobody even expects me. Even, I mean, today, go back to my grandma's funeral, for instance, I was like, I mean, it's packed, you know, and there's like a lot of people there, and in this house, sleeping outside of the house, it's just like a lot of people.
Yeah.
And there was a bed for me and my sister that was like,
just you two.
I mean, I didn't sleep in it because it was the most awkward thing ever. It was like, there was one bed in this house and it was kind of reserved for us. Like, you guys were not used to like, whatever, sleeping on the floor and stuff, I guess. And I was like, there's no way that I can sleep on this bed.
You sleep on the floor?
I slept on the floor. I regretted it the moment my head hit the ground. I swear. I was like, why? I should have just accepted the bed.
What made you say, okay, you know what, I'm not gonna take the bed?
No, because that was awkward. Honestly, that's like that. Just feels like that's just awkward. Yeah. But there are other things where I can't even think of anything now. But like nobody's gonna expect me to like, everybody already like goes into the situation teasing me about, like, I got chased with like the cow's head, for instance, by my cousin, because everybody knew that I was gonna, you know, be scared of it. Like, you know, so it's like I don't have to prove to anybody that I am, you know, within that I belong, because everybody already knows that it's, you know, it's fine. Or like even with my uncles, I mean, I don't know if I can publicly say this in front of my cousins, but like with my uncles, for instance, I'll be offered a beer, or like, you know, I can, like, if I'm smoking or whatever, I can do that with my uncles, which my cousins would never do that in front of, you know, their elders, like drinking or smoking. But like with me, it's like, here's a beer for Tandy and whatever, my ex-boyfriend at the time, like, you know, we're sitting amongst the elders and drinking with them, kind of thing.
Sure.
And that's not something, I know that that's not happening with, you know, my younger cousins or whatever. So.
But I think it's that perspective of they've really looked at you as an outsider in a sense. Because look, I think I've got family members who look at me that way, like, oh, don't do, no, that's, and they only communicate to me in English. And I'm like, but I can't speak Zulu, speak to me in Zulu. And then you find that they're like, don't do it. Hey, come on, speak with that London accent. Man, I'm like, gosh, get out of here, mate. Come on. What are you doing? Like, just be yourself, be normal. And there's almost an expectation from you. And it's funny that you say that, because I remember when they were doing, even at my grandma's funeral thing, I was there amongst the men doing everything. In fact, I was working harder than some of the guys who were there. In the same way, and I was just like, and I think also I worked extra hard just to prove as well. Look, I can do it just like you can do it, and I can do it 10 times harder.
I mean, I tried that. Like, I tried sweeping the yard with one of those. Why are those brooms so short? I don't understand why they're short. Because now you have to bend down. Like, my back does not bend down that far. Honestly, it's like I tried to sweep the yard with that. I tried for like 2 minutes and I gave up. Yeah, but I didn't last long.
Has that affected you, you know, any way in Germany? Have you ever felt in a certain way in Germany, like felt like you're not part of that?
Oh yeah, for sure. In Germany, way more to a certain degree, othered just because racism, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, I guess, because, you know, I'm not considered, which is interesting because within Germany, I actually feel way more because I speak German, because German is my mother tongue, and I grew up culturally very much exposed to German culture. I was born in Berlin, spent the first 5 years there, which are very formative, and then came to South Africa, went to the German school, so I was very much exposed to German culture, German mother tongue, and still when I'm in Germany, where I live between Berlin and Cape Town, when I'm in Germany, I am very, very much othered. People approach me speaking English because they think that I'm not German because
black.
Because black.
Yeah. Because you're black.
Because essentially, because black. She black. Exactly. And so far more even, and within the German context, I don't I understand it less than in South Africa, where until very recently, like I said, we were kept separate, and you were very much boxed. You know, it's like either you're coloured or you're black or you're white, and you can't transcend these unless you are having yourself reclassified or whatever. You know. But you have to fit into these boxes, otherwise, like, you're illegal, basically, essentially, right? But within the German context, when I'm speaking German, like I'm a German mother tongue speaker.
How do you say hello in German?
Hello.
Oh, hello. Okay.
And it's also not. I don't like. You can make anything sound. If
I know. It's only because of what we've seen on TV and Germans are harsh. Yeah. Hello. Okay. Cool. Okay.
I speak German, but still people, consider me not being German.
And I'm sure. And then as a kid, how was that growing up? Growing up there, your first 5 years. Can you remember much?
Yes, I remember a lot. And I know, and at the time, actually, I felt very much at home. For me, I felt like I belonged, and I can only say that because when we moved, that feeling of belonging was suddenly gone, and that was a traumatic experience. So that's why I only know that feeling before was a feeling of belonging. And also within my kindergarten, when I was 4 or whatever, those first years in Berlin, it was a very mixed kindergarten or creche or whatever you call that. We had black children, brown children, white children. It was mixed, and I had a black doll. We had the kindergarten had a black doll, and so it was like you were seeing yourself. And then I came to South Africa, and suddenly I'm in a white German kindergarten, and suddenly I'm feeling othered, like I'm not belonging because there wasn't these visual reference, and. Also, I remember when we first came to South Africa, and this must have been at the airport, because I think my grandma. I mean, also when you're a kid, you kind of, your memories, you mess them up a little bit because you don't understand. So you're watching it all through like 5-year-old eyes, But from what I remember, we came to South Africa, and my grandmother fetched us to where the airport or to me it was like a shopping center, but I'm thinking maybe it was the airport. And my grandmother was there. My black Venda grandmother fetching us, and I had my little black doll, which I always had with me, and my grandma grabbed this doll from me and then ran around what I thought was a shopping center, but maybe airport, ran around this place, waving this doll in the air, and running to other women, and everybody was like jumping up and celebrating and shouting and like super. There was just so much excitement, and I was terrified because I was like, why is this woman taking my baby? But it was just the first. She probably picked me up, but I don't remember that. That wasn't traumatic to me. To me, it was traumatic that she took my baby from me. And it was the first black doll that anybody had seen. So everybody is like super. This was like in 1992, I guess. 1992, 93, I guess we came to South Africa. And, it was a black doll. And it was like people were just excited about that. But to me, it was like coming from Berlin, that was just the doll that I had. And so I don't remember what your question was, but definitely growing up, I felt very much like, but also you get very safe as a kid.
So now we're having that experience of the German, and then having experienced that back in South Africa. Do you think any of this has had an impact in your present today, like throughout your journey in life? Has it shaped you in any way?
I mean, everything shapes you in life, every little thing. But in terms, if you're relating it to culture and identity, I think that for me, I use culture only when it serves a purpose, and when it doesn't, and it deeply frustrates me because I've heard this many times. Why are we doing this? No, it's culture. It's tradition, and that deeply frustrates me because to me it's not enough of a response. Because if it's being used to uphold the status quo that I think is not good, then I'm going to question it and say, I think that your culture has, because culture is made by human beings, I think maybe we're wrong. Yeah. Maybe we're wrong about that.
Maybe maybe now that purpose is no longer.
Yeah, maybe it's served the purpose at some point. But I'm saying now, but even at some point, people are never right all the way, and I think that we have to accept that. And then, you know, I think it's deeply problematic, especially within culture, because we have that thing of like, you have to respect your elders, which that's cool. But if your elders are treating you like shit based on something that they call culture, then we can tell our elders, you're wrong. And I don't think that that's I with my father, I didn't grow up not talking, like we talked, and he gave us a space where we were allowed to ask questions. And I mean, it's not, obviously there were times when he was like, no, that's just the way it is, because it's easier as a parent also at some point to be like, I don't know, that's just what it is, you just have to accept it, because you know, kids are tiring. But definitely my dad never expected us to do things that he would put on just culture. Like if it doesn't, even I would say that probably from what I'm seeing, he was quite free and open to new ideas and new concepts, and never made us adhere to something that he thought, you know, growing up to him was something that was expected. He was, even in terms of this respecting elders, I know that he says that growing up he was always expected to look down and not look into the eyes of his elders, and he says he didn't like that because it made him feel not, you know, worthy or whatever. And so he, you know, made sure that we can approach people in a place where you feel confident and not like you have to fear your elders. It's about respect and not fear, I guess, is essentially the thing.
Because I always ask myself that question where even within workspaces, to what degree or sense do you separate between work and respecting your colleague and culture? And I say that because I did a workshop one, and then I was like, look in the eyes, and they said, no, it's against my culture to look into someone else's eyes. So that's, people have carried that into those spaces as well, you know. And
that's interesting.
I found that very interesting, and I've always asked myself, how do you separate culture and work? You know, to what degree?
I mean, but that's the thing. As soon as you have people that have different belief systems come into a space, you kind of have to negotiate your way around these things, and that you can only do with respect and understanding
and openness, I think. And I think for me, that's where the root of the whole culture comes in, and how do we accept each other for who we are in different spaces, different worlds, whatever, from who I am. And I think it's just a matter of just respecting and opening, saying, okay, this person does things this way, okay, let's respect that. Okay, they're not, you know, stepping over my shoes or over my culture. And that's right. And I think we can live better that way. But because we so want to impose and want to show, no, it's my culture's right, no, yours is wrong. You know, I think that's where the problem, you know, part of the problem is with understanding culture and tradition itself. I don't know. I never have the full answers for these things.
I don't know either.
And that's okay.
There's no answers.
There's no right or wrong.
Also, I think that it's so interesting because we also lack words to express the things that we mean at this point, because things have changed so much. Like, I don't know what to call some, like, for instance, I don't like the word biracial or mixed race or whatever people are calling themselves, just because to me, I feel like if we are acknowledging that races don't exist, like different races don't exist, we're all one race, right? Then I don't know why I'm mixed race when there's not, you can't mix races because it's all one race, you know? So I just feel like I don't feel comfortable using that as a term. But I don't know what it is. Like I would probably usually say mixed heritage, But sometimes that's not enough to explain what it is that you are, you know. And so I feel like
so you have to say I'm black and white. You don't want to say that.
Yeah, but even black and white, what does that? Doesn't mean anything because black can be all of this and white can be all of this. You know, like being German white is not the same thing as being Italian American white or whatever. You know, it's like it means too many things. So it doesn't actually pinpoint what that is that you're experiencing. And so. I think we almost we lack the language. I mean, maybe somebody else has wow, okay.
Does anyone? I'm sure someone, in the comments can drop us something what it can be called. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe we find a term. But then
or
again,
maybe
that's
the thing. Maybe the only time that one needs to use words to describe these things is when you're actually having a conversation about it, and then you can actually, actually delve into it. I don't know the answers.
We don't.
Nobody's got the answers.
Yeah. No, I think I went through an interesting period when I arrived in the UK because as an African kid, I couldn't claim and hold that Africanness up because it wasn't cool to be African when I arrived in the UK.
Oh, shame, but now you should have been there now.
But look now. They lift Africa high, literally. I think it's a new thing.
Yeah.
But I remember when I arrived there, you couldn't be African. In our school, we used to get bullied if we were African. They used to call us African Batikris, ABC, meaning African Batikris. They used to make monkey noises like, whoa. African Batikris. So they call you ABC, standing for African Batikris. And then your Chris is your bum. Yeah, that's what they used to call it.
What? I don't even get it.
Your Chris,
but I don't.
Yeah, African, your Bati, your Chris,
I guess.
Yeah, but we also had Jamaicans fighting with Africans. And they were saying that we live in shack houses in Africa.
Wait, were Jamaicans considered cool?
Yeah, Jamaicans were considered very cool.
Oh, already at the time.
Very cool, especially because I grew up in Birmingham. It was very Caribbean dominated, and most of the guys from my school were English boys, black English boys, but Jamaican descendants. That's why it was easier to blend in with Jamaicans because their parents were Jamaican. And as for us Africans, we just couldn't. And you have a girl, you say, my name is Luntu, and then you've got Jerome. The girl will say, Lunt what? No man, no one Jerome. In the same way, they're gonna want Jerome, they're not gonna want Luntu. What's Luntu? What does that stand for? And I remember there was a girl I saw, she was on the bus, she was nice, man. I waved at her, and then she waved back, and I was like, what? Come off the next stop. And then she was coming off the bus, and I ran to the bus stop. Okay, and then she got off the bus, and I'm like, are you alright? Yeah, she goes, yeah, I'm alright. What's your name? I'm like, my name is Luntu. Oh, is it African? I'm like, yeah, it's African. Ew, you're African. And she walked off. So that's the sort of stuff we had to do.
Wait, what age was this?
I was probably 15 at the time.
Wow.
15, and I was like, what? And I remember for the longest time, I never used Luntu as my name. I used I'm Alman, so people started calling me, that's Alman, Alman. Because you have to have a tag name, road name.
Wow.
And when they ask you, what's your real name? I'm like, Lauren. Because I didn't want to say
I'm actually lying.
Yeah, wow. I couldn't say I'm Luntu because it's it's African.
Wow.
It was so deep. Only the last, when I was, when I got older and I was like, okay, and then I kind of accepted myself and say, okay, you know what, I love being African, I love myself, who I am. They even asked me what's your name, I'm like, Luntu. Remember, there's no click in my name, right? I'm like, Luntu. They're like, I know. Especially white people. White people like, what's your name? I'm like, Luntu. Like, you what? What's that? Luntu. Yeah, I'm like, Luntu. Is that from South Africa? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, yeah, that's what I don't know, Savannah. I'm like, yeah, no, you just, but I had to learn to.
Wow, that's like a 180 there.
Yeah. No, I had to because, that thing, I think that when we went through that, it was so not cool.
Yeah.
I've got one of my closest friends. Till today, I think he still never told people in our school that he was African. He was like, no, I'm from here. I was born here. And he
Oh, but if he was born there,
no,
that's
he wasn't.
Okay.
Because he had to want to fit in, he had to be part of it.
I see. So did you hope that coming back to South Africa, you were going to find that acceptance
that
you didn't feel you had?
Oh, yeah.
And
because
it
also
wasn't that.
the reason why I came back to South Africa, because the government in the UK told me I had to come back home after living there for so long. Like, okay, fine, let me go back home, let me go start this thing called life. And I'm excited, you know. And I mean, I was excited spending time with my family, meeting my grandma.
Yeah.
Boom! When I get to South Africa, when I speak. And I remember a colored guy said to me, stop me, he goes, why you talk like a white man? I was like, no, I said, I don't sound like a white man. He goes, you do? Why you hong? I was like, what the heck? Like, so those are the things I had to, you know, which was very extreme. I was like, no, man. And then, you know, just going also to the village and experiencing the same thing and realize, actually, I'm being questioned here. I'm not fully African here. I'm not acknowledged as an African. You know, but even my cousins will make jokes with me. They only speak in English. I'm like, what are you doing that? You know, they're like, oh, bro, this is how you cut it, bro. You don't do this in England. I'm like, yeah, of course we don't catch, you know, cows and sheep like that. We don't do that. But I remember these things from my childhood. So for me, they never left me completely. I might not know how to do it like you because you've been practicing it. Isn't it takes practice to become really good at something? So that's why you know how to cut a sheep and where to cut it. I don't know that because I haven't been practicing, but I know about this world. It's not new to me.
But do you feel like that's something that you need in order to be...
To prove?
Because now you're even like almost to me, it sounds like you're saying, no, but I do remember
I
how I did it.
I
know, but I'm saying like it almost sounds like you're defending that you do have a knowledge of that.
I do, and that's what irritates me.
But do you think it's important that one has that in order to be
of that culture?
Yeah.
I think, look, it depends on the person. As for me, I think it's important for them to acknowledge that I still know about the cultures and certain things of tradition. It's not that I went to UK and I was like, okay, Africa, stay there, I'd never erase from my life, you know. Because some of these moments are precious to me. They meant something to me, you know. And the moment you erase that and try and make a mockery out of me, that's what you're doing, really. You're taking the make out of me. That's why, you know what I'm saying? Oh, bro, this is how you cut it, bro. I'm like, come on, man. Come on, man. Give me some slack. Come on, man. I know what it is.
So basically you're saying you can cut a sheep's neck. Good. Well done.
No, I can't. But I know of the experience. It's not shocking for me when I see it because I'm aware of that world.
Right.
Yeah.
My dad says he wouldn't do it anymore. Like he grew up also doing that. He says he can't. It's too painful to him.
Yeah.
Makes
is he vegetarian?
Sad. He's not vegetarian, but he does sometimes struggle to eat meat. Like I've sat with my dad where he'll be like, I don't actually feel comfortable. Like it makes him like, yeah. I want to say thank you for sharing. Thank you. For opening up. I appreciate it because I know that it's sometimes not easy also to admit to things and also to share one's feeling of inadequacy and you know because sometimes it is that you feel sometimes you feel like.
I think this is a great platform. I think it's a nice space to share and have conversations, and these are conversations that people are having across South Africa. It's not just because me and you've got lived in Europe or whatever and come back to South Africa. We're the only ones facing this. South Africans who've been here throughout their lives are facing these issues, are having these conversations. I mean, I've met some who can't speak their mother tongue and they've grown here and lived here all their life. Yeah. So this is an important platform. I think you're doing great work and that's amazing. I think you should continue to push it. Don't give up. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much. I don't know. This is a moment. This is a moment of appreciation. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for opening your heart. Thank you for being you. And bam, we're out.